Of all the different scripts that you have in like this bin, I don't know if it's a real bin. But, it's a real. Oh wow, okay, I thought it was a metaphorical.
I like
bin.
to have tactile paper, so yes, it's a real bin of scripts.
Okay, have there been any that you want to make, but the budget isn't there, and it wouldn't do it justice to do it on an indie budget?
Yes, there's like 3 that have floated to the top of that I'd very much like to do. The process of working that would involve some other people to make that work. One is a science fiction kind of apocalyptic creature movie. One of them is a very intense psychological horror movie with a female protagonist or / antagonist, depending on how you look at it. But then another one that I really wanted to do was a comedy horror creature film, which I tried really hard to like crunch numbers to figure out like how could we creatively do it, but it still was too much. But we actually came up with a creative way of telling that story in a different medium. Laurence came up with the idea. I said, well, I want to do like maybe I could adapt the script into like a fun text, and then we could have a picture every 3 or 4 pages to make it visual and keep it fun. And then she came up with the idea of like, well, no, we should do a picture per page of text. So like every page you have text, and then you have a cool picture on the other side. And I'm like, oh, that's great. So it was a way of us keeping the visual nature of it, be able to still have images, while also being able to do, have the text and tell the story, yet not be limited by the budget of like if you were trying to tell it into a movie. And this is an early prototype book of it called Innards.
How cool.
Which it's very early prototype. We have amazing artist, Armando Norte, who did the illustrations for it. So there's 106 illustrations for the novella. So like once again, a picture for every page. Lo is actually doing the coloring and in a weird way, the lighting on the black and white illustrations. And she also just came up with the other day, it's really exciting. She just came up with the idea because we were trying to figure out how to make the text work with the image and keep it visual as well. And she came up with the great idea that the text is actually going to be hand printed as well to go along. So the text, even though it's on the right side and it's text, it's going to be handwritten and hand drawn. And it's very creative in terms of like how the text is done. And that was always, even when it was typed, it was done that way. So like in terms of the words that come out and the layout on the page and stuff, it's very different. So it's a really unique, I'm really excited about it because it's very unique because we call it an illustrated novella. It's not a comic book, but it's definitely not a novella with a few illustrations. So it's living in this interesting in-between world between the two. So it's very unique. But it just suited the story really well because it was a comedy story. The comedy comes from the characters and the very bizarre situation. So with the creature. So because it was comedy, it just really lended itself to doing it with this fun text style with the images and a very interesting graphic images to go with it. It really lended itself to being able to tell it in this way. So that's something we're going to turn to after Echoes of Fear. Our last feature comes out fall of 2019. Hopefully everything works out on that. We're going to start turning our attention to that. Lo's currently finishing the coloring and lighting on it. So yeah, so that's Innards.
So how long was the script?
Oh, the script was a full feature script.
Like 120
I'm trying to remember like how many script pages. I think it was like 98 script pages.
Okay.
But of course it's not the script. I had to go back to my creative writing origins and convert the script into a story. But the great thing was because of the illustrations, I could keep the story really simple and fun in terms of the text part because the illustration of page kind of gives you a lot of the details that you would have to do if you were just writing the story. You'd have to, what does the main character look like? You'd have to describe it. And you'd have to describe the creature really well and the location. So basically by having the image of page, it enables you to kind of get more into the meat and the fun of the story in terms of the dialogue and the key events and action. You can kind of jump right to that in the text because the picture is kind of helping you along, helping the reader or viewer along in terms of what it looks like visually. So that's why it's a really fun marriage. And that's where it comes in a little bit, heading into your comic book realm a little bit. but a lot more text in a comic book where it comes back into your novella world. So it's in that nice in between space that we kind of created.
We know adaptations are common, but how common is it for a script to then be turned into a novella or a novel, whatever?
I think it happens from time to time. A lot of times it happens because people will do it to try to sell the script and the story, which I, of course, would not be against if that ended up happening once the illustrated, the illustrated novella came out. If it helped it turn into a movie, great. But our key goal was in doing it to make it a very its own project. So if it leads to the movie, great. If it doesn't lead to a movie, it's okay because it exists in its own way, in this form that people can enjoy it and get the story. And once again, a way of someone experiencing the story that you can't get. You can't hand someone a script. It's like handing someone who's not an architect the blueprints of a house. It's not a very satisfying way to experience a story. Scripts aren't meant to be the end result. I mean, scripts are always a step, like the blueprints of a house, to turn into a house, to turn into a movie. So this was fun with this is this basically, adapting it in such a way that it's complete in and of itself.
That's really cool.
We're very excited.
Very cool.
We'll get it done this year for sure, and then we'll figure out how to get it out there. That'll be a whole new distribution world because we've never done done distribution of a book for novellas. So I don't know.
You don't know? So
we have to learn because it's the first time we've ever done this. I mean, all of our experience from doing movies doesn't really lend itself to what we're going to do with this novella. So that'll be something new we'll have to learn in terms of distribution and marketing and what the best way is to get it out there to people.
Where did you actually get the book made? It's a beautiful book. You want to hold it up again?
Yeah, sure.
It's absolutely gorgeous. Where did you actually get once you had the artist attached and you were finished with your text, where did you actually get it put together, the book, the bounding?
Well, this is just the prototype of it. We wanted to do it, Lo found a place to have it printed. So we could basically have a proof of concept for ourselves because this was early on before the text was handwritten, so the text is just typed. But we just wanted to get a sense, and the images are still black and white, and a lot of them weren't in their complete stage yet. But we just wanted to get a sense of how would it work in terms of reading it and experiencing it, getting your image per page, and so how would that feel and how would it work? And so it was kind of like a proof of concept for us to be able to hold it in our hands and read it. And, we made a lot of changes from this because this was a great way of us it's almost like a rough draft or a first cut of a movie. It was a great way to kind of get a layout of okay, so this is where it's heading and how can we make it better? And from this, we realized that to really make it pop and for the comedy to come through, it was important to do the color. And then Lo actually experimented and learned how to do the coloring on it, and she's a DP, so it's weird. It's you actually add lighting when you add color. So in an interesting way, you're almost adding color and lighting it, and it helped bring out the artist Armando Norte, and it helped really bring his illustrations out. You could really see the line work he did and everything. It helped the viewer be able to see that better, and see all that detail work they did on it. And like I said, and just recently we learned from doing all that she came up with the idea of doing the text in a hand-drawn manner to once again helping with the comedy and the flow of it and complementing the illustration. So we're very excited how it's going to turn out.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Imagine it's such a hit that they want a second one, but they don't want to turn it into a movie. They actually like it in novella form, and it becomes its own series.
Well, that's
great.
Cool. I mean, every time we do a creative project, we're we try not to think about who knows what it's going to lead to. So we try to be open. We finish it and see where it goes and see what opportunities it opens up for, whether it's a movie, what opportunity it opens up for another movie. If it's this, if it opens up an opportunity to tell another story this way, I mean, it'd be interesting. So I think for us, it's finding the right avenue to tell the story, what it lends itself to, to tell it.
Did you go to bookstores, the few that are left, and try to see, sorry, the few wonderful bookstores that are left, did you go to them and try to see what other novellas in the horror section, just to get an idea, since this was a new realm for them?
Well, yes, we actually dropped into an amazing horror shop called Dark Delicacies.
Oh, okay.
And they...
in Burbank? Sorry?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yes. And it was interesting because the proprietor of that Dell, he is an author himself, and he's very aware of everything that's out there in publishing, especially in the horror genre realm. And it basically, it's kind of unique. There isn't anything exactly like this. There's some things with an image, but it's like every 3 or 4 pages, or it's not balanced the same. We did see like a book that was done there. I can't remember the name of it later after we kind of done the prototype and mapped it out, where they did kind of have an image and with text per page, but it was different. It wasn't a novella as much. It was almost like poetry in a way. So it's like we haven't really seen anything exactly like this, which to us is exciting. We've heard other people say, well, that's not good, because it doesn't fall into like a little niche. Like, oh, it's that type, it's this, it's that. But to me, it's exciting, it's different.
Well, remember Shel Silverstein? Like, did his thing, remember Shel Silverstein, the writer? Like, no. Oh, okay, he did kind of like these cool like poems, and then there would be these drawings. And I mean, I'm dating myself. I think that's like a Bay Area. No, I mean, he was worldwide, I know, but so he kind of, I don't know.
Well, when I was a kid, like the poet that really impressed me in terms of what he did visually was E.E. Cummings, and how he laid out his poetry actually really affected me a lot. I actually, a long time ago, did some poetry, and I would kind of like, I kind of fell into a similar thing where I would visually kind of move the words around in a different creative way, which when it got adapted into this novella, that same thing kind of came through, even though I hadn't done it since, I don't know, college, I guess. But the same thing would happen where like I would bring words up and words would be big and move things on the page different. And so that's why it's different. Even in the text side of it, it's not just like a normal text where it's like line, paragraph. It has its own rhythm and style in terms of that as well, which will be brought out even more. That's going to be the text is going to be done by hand by Lowe. It's going to make that even more pronounced. So I'm very excited.
You were a poet in Tennessee in high school?
Oh my God.
How was that?
Pretentiously awful.
Do you have any like-minded people?
I filled books with my poetry, which no one has ever seen them except for very good friends and Laurence. Obviously, Lowe has seen some of them, but yeah, it was just for me. It was a way I would let out creative outlet steam when I couldn't make a movie. I would use that as an outlet. That's before I would write scripts so much. Once I started writing scripts a lot more, I kind of stopped doing that and became much more just writing scripts as an outlet. Now because of this, it's weird. I'm dovetailing back into that a little bit. But for me, it's like the key is whatever we do, I just want it to be entertaining, because it's like I do this even though it's very personal and it's stories we're interested in. To me, it's also stories that should interest other people, because it's done for other people to see and have fun with. Even when we do the scary supernatural horror movies, it's fun. It's scary. I mean, it's fun to have a good scare and tell a creepy, scary suspense horror story. So everything we do is kind of like focused on it being entertaining, which is why I get scared to say the word poetry. That's why that poetry does not exist in little books I hand out. It's just for me, because I don't think those things would be really entertaining for someone else. It's more like something I would do creatively, but it's not something designed for the outside world, because I don't think other people would find it entertaining.